Roguelikes. What are they? Nobody knows. Okay, some of you probably know, but most of us aren't really sure, alright? So just give us a break. We're trying our best. It's one of the many questions that have been around since the dawn of man. And at a certain point, you have to accept that some questions just weren't meant to have clear answers. They simply exist to fill the space in your mind as you zone out on your drive home from work, or argue about with yourself in the shower. I'm pretty inexperienced when it comes to roguelikes, despite always being pretty interested in checking them out. If you're like me, maybe you've wanted to dabble as well, but with so many different ones to choose from, how can you know if you're picking a good one or just wasting your time? Well, I decided to put the time in and try to see if I could find any good ones. I forced myself to spend exactly 2 hours and 20 different roguelikes and rank them based on how likely I was to ever play them again. 20 roguelikes, 40 hours, 8,762 deaths. This is my story. Very quickly, before we get started, there are a few things I want to get out of the way. As I said, I'm relatively new to roguelikes, so I want you to understand that I'm not trying to come in as an authority on the genre and objectively rank these games. These rankings are strictly based on the 2 hours I spent in the game and how likely I am to play it again based on my experience. I stuck with free games for this video as it's more approachable for everybody, and I also did my best to make sure everything in this video is actually a roguelike and not a roguelite. So if I got any of them wrong, I apologize in advance. I tried to pick games where the description written by the developer themselves described it as a roguelike, so hopefully we're all good. If you guys like this video, please click the like button, and also let me know in the comments, and perhaps we'll do another round of this where I include paid games. All that being said, let's get to the rankings. Kicking things off at the bottom of the list, we have Klondike's Hike, a Solitaire roguelike. This was kind of a rough 2 hours to be honest, which is a shame because I actually don't hate the concept at all. I think it's a pretty creative idea for a game, and I see the potential in it, but this game was just not ready to be released. There is a little warning at the beginning that sort of says this, but I feel like this game wasn't even ready for early access. This needs more time in the oven for sure. I didn't have one run that didn't bug out in one way or another. I'm not even sure sometimes if something was supposed to be part of the game or if it was a bug. Sometimes I'd double click to send a card up to the foundation and it would just disappear or end up back in my deck randomly, but I didn't understand why. My first run, I got to the first boss, and I guess it bugged out here. This card didn't flip that I think was supposed to flip, and I was stuck. I couldn't finish the run, and I couldn't get my points up high enough to land an attack. And it was a boss, so I think I was just stuck, so I ended up having to hard reset the game. Then my very next run would just never let me take a power up. It's like the game thought my inventory was full, and there's no way to skip a chest. Even if you drag something from the chest to the scrap button, it just locks the screen, and you have to click the undo button and basically just try to play the rest of the round around that chest, and whatever's left under it. Also, I went into the settings and muted the music and sound, but that didn't mute the attack sound, and it scared the shit out of me randomly.
Bunch of stuff to make sure that everything goes smooth.
God damn, it's so loud.
Hide cameras. I just realized that the current plan right
Also,
now
I have it muted.
hiding in the back.
I also had a Danny Gonzalez video playing on the other monitor, so that's what that extra noise is. Again, I like the concept here, but I really think the dev did themselves a disservice releasing this game in the state it's in. I imagine it's probably turned a lot of people off that otherwise would have been into it, and they probably moved on to other games and will forget about this one. It almost certainly wouldn't be ranked last if it was in a better state. I can't imagine I'll play it again, but I will say if the developer works out all the bugs, makes everything a little bit more clear, and honestly just finishes the damn game, I could see it being pretty fun. At number 19, we have Demon's Infernalize, and I'm a little bummed out about how little I liked this one. I like a good survivor-style game, and this one looked pretty cute, but it really just needs some work. It's a free game with no monetization, which is always nice, but it has some issues that are just hard to get past for me. There's an issue you may be familiar with when making a game with character movement, that sometimes the code you enter can result in your character moving faster on a diagonal than in a straight horizontal or vertical line, and this game seems to be suffering from that. On top of that, enemies seem to get faster as you level up your own movement speed, which is also kind of annoying, and you'll find yourself frequently thinking you have an angle that you don't actually have. You'll make your run for it, and all of a sudden Brian Dawkins comes flying out of nowhere to take you out. Stuff on the ground despawns after a pretty short time, which gets tougher to deal with the further into a run you are because you have to start making pretty wide circles to stay alive. And the amount of times things disappeared seconds before I was about to pick them up was pretty annoying. Again, the little guy is cute, the power-ups and stuff are not bad, and I'm generally always down for a survivor-style game, but I think I just really don't understand why this one was published either. It's another one that feels like it needs a bit more attention before I can talk about playing it again. Coming in at number 18, we have Ascendant. Ascendant looks like it was going for something kind of Hollow Knight-y, although I can't be sure because I actually still haven't played Hollow Knight. What am I waiting for, you ask? I don't know, man. Sometimes I just do this. I'm currently editing a very long video of my first playthrough of Undertale in 2025. So I just be procrastinating games sometimes, man. I don't know what else to tell you. I have watched a few videos about Hollow Knight over the years, though, and it seems like this game was inspired by it. I wrote that last part in my initial notes immediately after playing, but I looked it up to be sure for the final draft, and this game actually came out 3 years before Hollow Knight. So maybe it's the other way around. Either way, I was not really into this game. It's a bit of a platformer with some active combat, there's dashing and parrying and magic and a few different systems. I just wasn't really digging it, as the rank would suggest. It's not like I think it's awful or anything, it just didn't do anything for me. It's just a little too clunky, it took a while to get used to the way it plays. If you're gonna check this one out, I highly recommend the tutorial as it's not particularly intuitive. There's a dash mechanic, for example, but the buttons are Q and E, which at least for me made it really difficult to utilize because you have to take your finger off the button that's moving you in the direction you want to dash in that direction. I ended up switching them so that dash left was E and dash right was Q, which made it a lot easier to work with. Again, it just didn't really do anything for me, and that's a risk I run when I make these videos. I won't be playing this one again. At number 17, we have Death Skid Marks, and man, I really just didn't like this game at all. This is another game that I don't necessarily think is an objectively bad game or anything, I just didn't like it. There was clearly a lot of time put into it, it has a lot going on, it's fairly polished and well put together aside from one big issue we're going to talk about shortly. There really wasn't anything I liked about this game, and I know that sounds harsh, but I didn't particularly care for the art, the gameplay wasn't fun for me, I wasn't really into the humor, it felt very try-hard edgy a lot of the time. I think what it really boils down to is that I'm just not the target audience for this game. I'd say maybe if you cried when you found out Hulk Hogan died, you might be more who they're aiming at with this one. I did have an issue as I progressed a bit and there was more stuff happening on the screen where the game would flicker really aggressively. Even when I ran it windowed, I'd run into this problem, and it's definitely not a hardware or an outdated driver's issue on my end. The game also seemed to lack any sort of settings that might fix it, so that made it hard to play up to a certain point. Or should I say harder to play. It's a bullet hell style game where you drive your car and aim with your mouse at enemies on the road, and I figured out early on that if I just press enemies up against the wall and let my melee passenger go to town, nothing could really put up much of a fight. Maybe it gets harder as you go, but it's also hard to know because the black screen issue was making it unplayable. There are a lot of different upgrades and passengers and vehicles to get into, quite a few mini games and stuff. It's not like this isn't a complete game or anything. There's a lot here. If it's something I wanted to play more, however, the black screen issue would definitely be a deal breaker. Lucky for me, I don't want to play it again, but if any of what you've seen looks interesting to you, run wild, brother. Moving right along to number 16, we have Chroma. If you want a really hard game, Chroma is the game for you. This game is so ridiculously hard. It's a pretty cool game conceptually. You choose ammo types and where to place them in your firing sequence, and then you're deployed to one of several different types of stages to accomplish an objective. Whether it be destroy things on the map, survive for a certain amount of time, hack terminals, etc. I played on normal for a while and the enemies are just relentless. One of the big things is they all dive bomb you, but they seem to be able to lead you on a bit instead of launching themselves to where you are when they launch, so it's really hard to outmaneuver them. Most of the time I would just get dive bombed by enemies I didn't even know were in the fight. I eventually dropped down to easy and beat the game on my first try, which might make it sound like easy is too easy, but I assure you it's not. I barely scraped by. I think had I not been conditioned to the danger from all the time I spent playing on normal, there's no shot I'd have beaten it on my first try. It's kind of fun, I like the idea, it's just really hard. And there's actually a hard difficulty that there's no fucking shot I'm ever attempting. If you want to flex in the comments, go beat this game on hard and come tell me about it. I will genuinely be impressed, but I personally got more than enough of my fill of Chroma for this lifetime. Number 15 was Star Rogue, and this one isn't too bad, honestly. Like, it's not really good either, but I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just there. It takes a little getting used to the movement and stuff, but for what it is, it's okay. It's also difficult, at least for me.
Fucking shit, dude. Suck my dick, dude. Suck my fucking dick, bro.
I learned making this video that games like this are tough for me to pick up on. It's one of those things that I'd watch somebody else play and think it looked easy, and then once I'm playing, it's like I forgot everything I've ever known about playing a video game. There are a few different characters with different weapons and abilities, and each stage you clear lets you choose between 2 power-ups that you'll carry with you for the rest of the run. Didn't really do me much good, however. My runs didn't tend to last very long. If you didn't know better, you'd probably think I was trying to play it blindfolded with how much I was struggling at times. I probably should have dropped the difficulty a little bit, but I was being kind of hard-headed. I kept thinking it can't be this hard, but it turns out, oh yes, it fucking can, dude. There really isn't much else to say. What you see is pretty much what you get with Star Rogue. I can't really see a reason I'd ever load this one up again. Coming in at number 14, we have Rabbit Hole, and this game just straight up pissed me off, dude. I just could not get used to the way this one played. I'll get out ahead of it and let you know this game does not deserve this low of a rank based on its quality. This is strictly just a, this game is really just not for me ranking. And it's 100% a skill issue. I don't need you telling me that in the comments, I already know. I spent quite a bit of time rebinding keys and stuff to make it comfortable to play, and I just was not settling into this one at all. It's not bad. It looks cool, it plays pretty smooth, there seems to be a lot of weapons and enemies and little events and stuff. It's not a bad game at all. It just definitely is not my kind of game. So don't let the rank deter you from checking this one out. You probably have an idea of whether or not you'd like it based on what you're seeing, and if you think you would, you probably would, because again, it's well made. I just didn't like it. It pissed me off more than any other game on this list. I probably fought the first boss 20 times, and despite feeling really confident I was remembering her patterns and range, she was still catching me. It's like she was making adjustments based on what I thought she could do or something. I did get through her a couple times, but I struggled every time I did. One big plus for this game is that it let me pet a dog when I saw one, and if you saw my Idle Games video, you know that's kind of a big deal. Again, I don't think this is a bad game at all, but unfortunately for Rabbit Hole, I'm all the way butt cheeks at it, so I can't imagine I'll be starting another run unless I feel like I need to be punished for something. Number 13 is Sword Rogue, and this reference is strictly for the old heads in the audience, but this game reminds me of something that would have been popular in the computer lab in high school. Everybody rushes through their work so they can jump on mini clips or Newgrounds and play Sword Rogue. That's what this one feels like to me. It has an extremely simple style, but it plays well enough. Kind of feels like someone taking a Game Development 101 class turned this in for their final or something. You choose from one of 3 weapons and just move your little dude around trying to hit stuff and not get hit, getting stronger as you clear waves. You've definitely seen this before, but perhaps never in quite such a simple form. I think it would be a nice little time killer on a handheld, so if you had a Steam Deck or if it's possible to get it on a Switch or something and you just play it when you're on the bus or pooping, or both, I guess, if you like to party. I don't necessarily have anything bad to say about it, but it's not something I'm going to load up on my PC and play, especially with what's left to talk about on this list. Number 12 is called Personal Space, and this one was actually a lot of fun. It's a neat little concept for a game, sort of like a Vampire Survivor style game, but you don't have any attacks. Instead, it's your goal to just dodge a variety of projectiles and enemies for a certain amount of time to survive the room and move on to the next one. And occasionally you get to choose active or passive power-ups. There's a story mode that seemed pretty silly and fun, but there's also an arcade mode if you want to just get straight to the action. Story mode starts off much easier and sort of ramps up, whereas arcade mode just kind of brings the heat immediately. The main mechanic your character has is their personal space, so when you feel like you're getting overwhelmed by the stuff around you, you can activate your personal space for a short amount of time to protect you from projectiles and stuff. It's a neat little concept. You can also up the difficulty and adjust your starting health if you like. The music in this one's pretty good. All in all, it's a fun little game. I think it's worth a play. At number 11, we have Dr. Cog. This might be the most unique take on a roguelike I played for this video. It's sort of a deck builder puzzle type game, I guess is a good way to describe it. The story is that you're using this machine to try and restore someone's memories, and I won't say much more about that just to avoid anything that might end up being a spoiler. But if you're someone that digs a little story, this game seems to have one going on that has potential to get fairly deep. As far as the gameplay, you're attaching cogs to the core and then to each other to make them spin in the direction that best suits you, and every time the core rotates, you receive the points you generated based on where your cogs are placed and which direction they're spinning, as well as whatever synergies you focus on as you build. It's a really interesting little game, and there's some solid replayability here, I think. Time actually went by pretty fast with this one. The music is also not bad. It's simple enough that there isn't much more to say, but complicated enough to be interesting for a while, if that makes sense. Honestly, this one feels kind of like a coin flip whether or not I play it again. If not for the rest of the games on this list, I'd say it would be more likely, but there are a few coming up that are definitely going to have my attention for a while. Kicking things off in the top 10, we have Quacker Bros' first Heist. This one is actually kind of dope. Another fairly simple game at first glance, as there's no character movement or anything. It's sort of like a tower defense game. There's a vault in the middle of the street, and you deploy ducks around it to protect it from the chicken mafia, which is one of the more ridiculous sentences I think I've ever spoken. You move your mouse around to collect resources and stuff, and every time you level up, you get some cash that you can spend on new ducks or powering up the ducks you already have. And as you progress, you have to start thinking about replacing ducks, as you can only have 7 active. It took me a few runs to notice the synergy effects, but the more ducks you deploy from the same category, the more extra buffs you get. I ended up being pretty surprised at the depth here based on how it started. There are a lot of different ducks. Seems like you'd have to play for a good while to figure this one out. And it does ramp up pretty aggressively after a while. I enjoyed this one a lot. It's not unthinkable I'd play it again at one point to see if I can run that timer out. At number 9, we have Moonring, and it seems to have a regular RPG mode and a permadeath mode that makes it a roguelike, so I'm including it in the list. I actually think that's really cool for this game in particular because it seems like there's a lot to see and do. Lots of story and stuff, and it's also kind of hard. So if you get sick of dying in the first dungeon and wanted to see more of it, you could just play the regular mode. For this video, however, I stuck with the permadeath mode. It's a really cool game. I really dig the little neon style it has to it. It's surprisingly deep, like there's a surprising amount of stuff going on and things you can do. Feels like it might legit just be a big RPG. The way you chat with NPCs is pretty neat. You have a little thought bubble above the text box and words will pop up as the NPC says them that you can type in to get more information about. And apparently there are sometimes secret words you can try to guess that may unlock stuff. I don't get to know just how much there is of this game, however, because I couldn't clear the first dungeon. It's very manageable up to a certain point, and then there's just an enemy that killed me every single time I encountered it. One run, I decided to skip that dungeon and venture out into the world, thinking maybe I just needed to get stronger, so I wandered around for a while, nearly getting killed several times. I visited a few towns and screwed around a bit until eventually heading back to my original town, trying the dungeon, and wouldn't you know it, dying to the same exact enemy again. This is definitely one I'd recommend checking out, especially if you like old school RPG vibes. Despite my lack of progress, I had a really good time playing it, and I am curious to see what some progress would look like, so it's not entirely unlikely I'll play this one again. And this is the last game on this list that gets a maybe. Everything from this point on is really fun, especially the top 5. Number 8 is Bone to Gather, and this one is just awesome, man. I like a lot about what's going on with this game. It plays kind of funky, but you get used to it really quick. Basically, wherever you click on the screen, your skeletons will start moving in that direction, and they just continue to pinball around the map until you click somewhere else or right-click to stop moving completely. You have way more control over them than it sounds like you would. It actually feels pretty natural pretty quick. You damage enemies by bumping into them, and if one of your skeletons gets hit, they break apart into bones that scatter around the stage that you can try to collect to revive them. As long as you keep one skeleton alive, you're good. As you progress, you get different power-ups, new skeletons, you can buy more slots for your team from the shop, which took me longer to realize than I care to admit, and you can lean into certain synergies, as each skeleton has at least one, but usually multiple classes. There are a lot of different classes and synergies to explore here, a bunch of power-ups and skeletons and items and stuff to get. The gameplay's really fun. I personally liked the Pop Stars ability, where as long as you're standing still, there's a spotlight that follows enemies around and damages them. You obviously have to be careful about how long and where you stand still, but it came in really handy. And a lot of the other synergies look like they'd be a lot of fun to mess around with as well. The boss battles seem pretty well done too. I dig this one a lot. Another really cool thing about it is there's a collection tab on the main menu that I was a little confused about at first, but basically whichever skeletons are in your team when you beat the game get added to the collection. So there's a really fun itch to scratch here for people who love collecting things, with the added challenge of trying to beat the game with every skeleton, basically. This one's super fun. I highly recommend it. I'll probably play this one occasionally to work toward completing that collection because that sounds fun to me. At number 7, we have Muck, and let's go ahead and kick things off by giving a shout out to the dev for not having the default volume set to 9 million. Seems like 99% of devs think it's illegal to not try to bust people's eardrums these days. Maybe for the first time in my life, I had to go in and turn the volume up from where it was set, so GG on that. This is a really fun game. It looks very goofy, and it kind of is, but don't let that fool you. This game is hard as hell. After perhaps the most unsuccessful first run possible in any video game ever made, I started to get the hang of what I was supposed to be doing. You're on a very tight schedule. The day-night cycle is very fast, and enemies spawn at night and come after you, so your objective here is to have the most productive day you can in the way of preparing yourself for the battle to come each night, with enemies getting stronger every night. You gather materials, make weapons and armor, try to stock up on healing materials and food and stuff. It's all the stuff you're familiar with if you've played survival games, just at a much faster pace, and the stakes are quite a bit higher than usual. I struggled for about 90 minutes trying to play on normal before finally dropping down to easy and having a slightly better time. My last run on normal just had enemies all over the place even during the day, so I wasn't getting anything done, so I was like, you know what, let's try easy so I can at least see what's going on beyond day 2. Easy is still challenging enough for the record. I think the enemies just do a little less damage and maybe there are slightly fewer. I found myself actually putting together a little bit of a build. I'd collected quite a few power-ups and was handling myself well in the evenings. I guess I got a little too confident because I came across a statue that said Challenge Gronk, to which I agreed, and then swiftly found out that was a mistake. Gronk ain't fucking around. This game seems to be multiplayer too, so I will definitely play it again and get a buddy or two involved. At number 6, we have Maru Expedition We Can Fly. Man, this game came out of nowhere. I was not expecting how much fun I had here. Lots of good things to say about it. I really dig the art style. We have the parallax thing going on with the backgrounds, and it looks great. The music is really good. The track for World 2 in particular has somebody slapping the absolute fuck out of that bass. It's a simple enough little gameplay loop. You're controlling a ship with your characters on it and trying not to let the little blue circle in the center take any damage. You add and upgrade your characters as the run progresses, and there's a lot of stuff to unlock through achievements and playing the game. I was a little concerned this might end up being a roguelite, but I don't think it is. There's no maintained progression, and the stuff you unlock really just results in playing it differently, not necessarily starting from a stronger place or anything. If I'm wrong, let me know, but I think we're good here. One thing I really appreciated about this one is that the difficulty scales really well. It felt reasonably hard initially, and when I beat it and unlocked the next difficulty, instead of the enemies just having more health or hitting harder, there were actually new enemies and the attack patterns were different. The bosses especially had very different things going on, and it was a bit more intense. I think that's really fun and makes me much more interested in unlocking the higher difficulties. It's not always so interesting to me that higher difficulty just means higher stats, you know? This game is fantastic. This is one I definitely recommend, and I'll certainly play again. All right, we've made it to the top 5 here. These are all fantastic games, and we're kicking off the top 5 with Darza's Dominion. Here we have a bit of a roguelike MMO, and it was a lot of fun. I had a really good time here. It's fairly standard gameplay for the type of game it is. You run around shooting enemies, and it ramps up in difficulty and volume as you progress. There are several different classes to play with more to unlock as you go, and when you die, that character and everything they had on them is gone forever. This was a very easy 2 hours to get through. For quite a few of these games, I was watching the clock pretty hard, but the 2 hours just kind of sailed by for Darza's Dominion. I dig the style, it plays very smooth, it's easy enough to get into, but definitely seems to have a good amount of depth if you wanted to play it long term. I will say I wouldn't have hated a bit more explanation about gear and if there's an easier way to identify upgrades that I was aware of or something. I feel like I spent a lot more time looking at loot than I probably needed to, but I'm sure in time it would all make more sense. I think this one could be pretty interesting to sink some real time into, maybe get into a guild and really see what this game has to offer in the later game. I lost my first character, a paladin, about an hour in. He was kinda cool to play, then I tried a mage and died pretty quick. After that I rolled with the archer and it was by far the most fun class for me to play. I'll probably keep rolling archers for a while and see what I can get done. Again, I had a lot of fun with this one and it seems like it has way more to offer than what I experienced in my 2 hours. Very solid little game. At number 4 we have Frostrain, another game that surprised me a lot. It's a very interesting game. It seems like there's a lot to learn here. Hell, I know I still have a lot to learn even after my 2 hours, at least in the sense of how to play it effectively. I get the gist of it, but there's a lot more I know I don't fully understand yet. You're conducting a train through some pretty harsh conditions, and your priority seems to be to keep the happiness of the passengers as high as possible. Different types and categories of train cars affect happiness in different ways, with several different synergies to keep in mind, as well as a pretty wide variety of other effects and mechanics I still need to get familiar with. It's a game that definitely requires some thought. I did experiment with a few different approaches, with my best run by far coming from focusing exclusively on train cars from the same category. The mistake I made in that run was trying to avoid a specific area that had killed me previously, so I just figured I'd backtrack a bit and go another way, as I was fairly certain there was another way to go. If there was, I didn't get far enough back to see it, because that's when I learned we're also outrunning a storm, so I ended up just unintentionally going back into that storm and it killed me instead. I had a very good time playing this game. This is an easy one to kick back and play while you listen to a movie or a podcast, or more of my YouTube videos, wink wink. It's a really cool concept as well, sort of unique to my personal gaming experience so far. I'll definitely play this one more and see what further progress looks like. Number 3 is Hellway, and man, what a solid little game this is, and we'll get into the good stuff, but I do need to gripe for a minute. This game, like several of the other games on this list, didn't have a settings menu. I don't know who keeps telling y'all it's okay to make games without settings menus, but it's not. You better, at the very least, give me some goddamn control over the volume and resolution of the game. Making a game without a settings menu is actually just something an insane person would do, and it pisses me off a lot. Having said that, this was one of my favorite games of the video, as I guess the rank would suggest. I am a little confused about whether or not it's a roguelike though, so I'll need the experts to let me know in the comments for this one. It doesn't seem to have permadeath, which I thought was kind of a big part of a roguelike. But the description of the game written by the dev, as well as several of the reviews of the game, all confidently refer to it as a roguelike, so I kept it in. And just so you know I wasn't getting lazy here, there were at least 8 other games that I had to play for about 30 minutes before I realized they weren't roguelikes either that didn't make it into the video. So if I didn't think it belonged here, it wouldn't be here, I promise. Either way, it's fun as hell, no pun intended. I like the style, I think the humor's pretty good, I found myself very interested in progressing. In my 2 hours playing, I made it down to level 69, and I know that seems like something I did on purpose, but I swear it wasn't. You're this little devil that walks like Quagmire from Family Guy, and you've been summoned back down to hell. You get 4 skill points every time you level up, which I don't think the game ever tells you. Also, the Grim Reaper during the tutorial at some point tells you you're immune to explosives, and that's fucking horse shit. I don't know if that's a prank or what, but it's not true, and it accounted for my only unintentional death until the last couple of minutes, oddly enough. I did go die another time or two on purpose to see if it would hit me with a game over, to which it did not, but maybe if I'd died more? I don't know. One last negative is the sound is crazy unbalanced. I could barely hear the game except when I unlocked a door or a chest. For some reason it farts at you really loud when you do those two things.
Of 4 numbers is easy to guess. How is that easy to guess?
Aside from not having a settings menu, the sound thing, and probably needing a little music, the gameplay itself was a blast. This was another game where the 2 hours flew by. I'll more than likely go back and completely finish this game. Our number 2 game is Skill Legends Royale, and this game is so fucking fun, man. This was ridiculously close to being number 1. It's a really cool way to make a roguelike PvP. It's sort of a deck builder at its core, but it's also an auto battler. It seems to be exclusively PvP, and you're put into a 10-person match where you'll cycle through fighting each other until there's only 1 person left alive. Each round you lose, you take damage equivalent to the attack stat of whoever beat you in that round. And it's just really fun to watch it play out. It's cool because you can lose several rounds in a row and still come back and win the whole thing as long as you don't get knocked all the way out. I won my first match by beating someone that had skunked me the last few times I fought them, but I leaned into the skills I needed to counter them a bit and ended up beating them when it counted the most. There are so many different characters to play as well as ways to play them. There seems to be a ton of depth here. I'll probably go look up some YouTube videos on this and see what higher level in-game battles look like. They also have notices posted for YouTube events that they do to encourage creators and give them a little insight as to what types of content they'd like to see made for the game. Seems like they're eager to work with content creators, which is always really cool to see. So if there are any aspiring YouTubers out there, this might be a game worth checking out to see if you like it enough to make some content for it and see how it goes. I really dig the art style they went with for this one. The gameplay loop is so addictive. The matches are kind of long, but time flies when you're playing it, so you don't really notice, and it'll definitely make you feel that one more run itch. There are some microtransactions and a battle pass, but as far as I could tell, it's all cosmetics or crystals for character unlocks. It also seems like it's all there to be earned for free if you're willing to grind a little bit though. Just in my 2 hours, I earned 150 of the crystals, and characters seem to cost either 300 or 600 to unlock. It's kind of cool in that sense. It's roguelike runs with a lot of extra stuff in the game to collect and unlock, but it's not necessarily saved progression or anything. I'd highly recommend you go check this one out, especially if you like PvP stuff. I'll absolutely be playing more of this. It's so much fun. I really struggled on whether or not this was going to be rank 1 or 2, but after some thought, I think I got it right because this next game is just an absolute banger. Our number 1 game on the list is Disfigure, and holy cow, this game is incredible. I cannot believe this game is free. Disfigure absolutely feels like a premium game. I was actually blown away at how much I enjoyed this game. It's so good that it completely changed my mind on survivor-style games that require me to aim. I was not really a fan of that until I played this one. I don't have one single negative thing to say about my experience with this game. I love their take on this gameplay loop. I think the aesthetic and design choices are fantastic. It plays very smooth. I'm a big fan. The skills are all very interesting and strong. It doesn't really feel like there are any right or wrong answers as far as the build you lean into, so you can really work yourself into something that fits your playstyle. Tons of different weapons and mutations to build around, some really cool elements to the gameplay that make it stand out significantly from other games in the genre, at least the ones I've played. The difficulty feels like it scales very appropriately. They just really nailed it for me with this game. Not only is it free, but I couldn't even find any microtransactions. I almost wish there were some. I feel like whoever made this game deserves to make some money for it. I'd gladly buy some cosmetics or map skins or something if they were available just to support the devs. I'll 100% continue to play this one for a while, and I very highly recommend you go give it a look as well. And that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you decide to check out any of these games and what you think about them. Also comment some roguelikes you'd like to see in part 2, where I'll be including paid games, as well as other genres you'd be interested in seeing me cover in this format. If you enjoyed this video, I have another video just like it about idle games that will be in the pinned comment if you want to check that out. I have so much fun making these videos. It's really cool to check out all these games that I'd have otherwise never played, and I really appreciate that you guys show up so I can continue to make them. If I may suggest turning on notifications, because YouTube loves not showing my videos to my subscribers for some reason. The algorithm also loves it if you watch more than one of my videos in a row, so I've put a couple on the screen I think you might like. Thanks again for watching. Have a good one.